I stay bout it, I'm not pouting. Break through walls and climb it mountains. If you want it, scream it loud and show this world what they've been doubting. Never waiting on the world to catch up to me. Leave it in the rear view. I wish that it was up to me. The world would never fear new.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Braintainment podcast. Today is an absolute cracker. I'm joined by my friend, Katie Williams, ex-Australian sprinter. She's now a presenter, a Big Brother 2021 housemate, which we'll unpack today, of course. And she is also the host of the Better For It podcast, which admittedly is one of the more enjoyable, entertaining, and useful podcasts that I've come across. So we'll unpack that as well. But for now, Katie, you superstar, welcome to the show.
Mate, thank you so much for having me. We chat all the time. We finally locked in a podcast session. I love your podcast and you're killing it. So yeah, it's an honor. It's an honor to have a chat on here.
Appreciate that, legend. So look, lots to get through, but you kind of touched on it there. I feel like we always have good chats, man. You always look forward to connecting with you. I like the way that you think. I think you seem to have like a real curiosity when it comes to all things, you know, self-improvement, optimizing our body, our mind. And you seem to share that journey with your amazing community in a way that's relatable and entertaining, which, you know, I really fuck with. So just want to acknowledge that for you, and how cool that we get to do it live this time and record it for the beautiful people tuning in, because we get the pleasure of having those chats off air. So it's really cool to finally get this chance to do our show. You're
a champion. You're going to give me a big head.
Well, let's start with I mentioned Big Brother. I want to unpack that a little bit, just come from a place of curiosity. I was joking with you the other day. You know, I feel like I was robbed. I applied last year and didn't quite make the cut. Might have a crack this year. We'll see. But yeah. For you, is there a particular reason that you wanted to apply in the first place?
It's like the ultimate challenge for me. Physically, obviously doing the challenges every 3 days, and knowing that the format is much like Survivor. Physically, I thought it would be a challenge for me. And then mentally, emotionally, and socially, I knew it would be a challenge because you're put in a house with 26 people and it's a social experiment. And then I also knew that mentally it would be really tough for me being away from my phone, my family, my work, and actually only having myself and getting to know myself. So the reason why I did Big Brother was I wanted to get to know kind of like the real Katie outside of work, outside of being an athlete, and actually challenge myself in every single way. Because Big Brother is that. It's a social game, a mental game, an emotional game, and it's a physical game. So it really is the ultimate challenge. And I love challenges. And I thought, why not throw myself in a house full of strangers and fight for $250,000? Like, for me, it was just like a no-brainer to give it a go. Like, as you said, I'm curious and I'll try everything. And yeah, I mean, it sort of scared me. So I was like, let's go.
How did you find that time to sit and ponder, I guess? Because there's obviously all kinds of challenges and stuff going on, but I imagine there's also plenty of times where you're just kind of sitting there in your thoughts, and you kind of touched on it there. There's a big challenge for you that you were, you know, almost looking forward to. But, you know, for me, sometimes it's just so easy to grab, you know, your phone, chuck on a TV show, even something more productive, like listen to a podcast like this or whatever it is, but you don't have that luxury. How did you find that experience when you were just kind of sitting in your thoughts at times?
I actually found it really cathartic. Like, it was the first few days where I had the microphone pack in my back pocket and I kept thinking it was my phone. So like something would happen and I'd literally pull out the battery pack to story. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm such a social media addict that's what I'm doing. So it took me like a few days to realize that this experience that we're having is only for us and no one else will see it until later. Because we filmed like October, November, December 2020. And then it came out on television like, when did it come out? A month ago. So like it's been a long time of us not telling anyone about it. So it was cool living in this experience, knowing that this is all we're experiencing, just us. And then even still that when the edit does come out, there's so much that's missed because one episode is like 3 days and one episode is like 3 days of content day and night. Because sometimes you do challenges during the night as well. So I loved, to go back to your question, I found it quite cathartic not having my phone. I loved that this experience was somewhat private, somewhat until it was televised. So like we kind of spent like a good 5 months of just having this huge secret. And then I suppose the other thing that I struggled with was I actually didn't have a lot of time to think. I didn't have a lot of time to be on my own. You're not on your own. So if you're sitting on your own, Big Brother will move you and get you in the group because they want you constantly talking, constantly strategizing. They want drama. They want television. So I never really sat on my own ever. And I actually didn't have time to think and ponder because you're always talking, you're always creating connections, you're always trying to understand the house dynamic. So I thought I was going in there to take a break and a holiday from my crazy life before the show. And then I got the rudest shock when I got in there. You don't really have, you do have some downtime, but it's not downtime because you're looking around and people are strategizing, or Big Brother has got someone on a secret mission, or you're thinking about who you're going to vote out. You're worried that you're going to get voted out. Like, it's not like the old format where you just sit and relax and sunbake. Like, you're just always on at all times. So like when I left the house, I was exhausted, and I'm a goer. Like, I don't stop, like, ever. And I actually, for like 2 weeks when I came out of the house, was like brain dead. Like, I just had nothing left in me. So I wish that I could have pondered and thought about life and all that, but truly I didn't. I was on the whole time.
Yeah, it seems pretty intense, the stuff that we do see on TV. You kind of touched on it there, but I imagine there is heaps as well that gets missed. I feel like there'd be times where, you know, a situation takes place, or, you know, you put on an absolute clinic, maybe you're hilarious, maybe you're strategic, but then it maybe doesn't come out on TV. Is that something that you found where there may have been moments or experiences that we don't see as the audience that you thought potentially would have been like a good opportunity for you to showcase, I guess, your personality and your efforts and process in the house?
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of bits that were cut out and a lot of moments that were cut out. Like, my friends came to the house for a temptation challenge and they cut all of that. Like, my friends took the day off work, and it was for the temptation challenge when Tilly's dog came in the house, and we had to ignore the temptations around us. And like, my friends literally all came to the house. I'm like, why did they cut that? And then they cut my letters from home. So I got letters from home from my family, and it was very emotional. And, you know, I end up hugging Danny, who is my rival in the house. And we have this really beautiful moment where I tell him his kids to be proud of him and just all that stuff. But I understand the letters from home for me weren't a part of my story because I was the tough girl. And I am tough, but I'm also extremely emotional. So I think there was a lot of moments I wish were shown, but I understand why they weren't, because it would have conflicted with my character. If you know what I'm saying. Like, I understand that we're all, like, even though I'm myself completely and I was myself 100% on camera, I didn't change anything. But I understand that you're being like cast as a character, not a character, but you have like a role to play in a way. So all the moments I wish they showed of me, like dancing and having fun and like being very social in the house, just carrying on, a lot of it was cut. And a lot of it was me being like very fierce and competitive, which I am fierce and competitive. But it's only a small bit of it's probably not a small bit. It's like half of my personality. Yeah. So, but I understand that's television.
I totally get that. You know, I talk about on this show all the time. I have this like weird duality of personalities where I'm like wildly extroverted and super philosophical and curious. And yet at the same time, you know, I love going to the pub. I love listening to rap music and can sort of like dance between these personalities. So I totally get that. I feel like your friends would have been filthy that they didn't get airtime.
Yeah, they were. They were like, it was just, it was bizarre. I mean, they weren't filthy, but they were like so excited and had topics. They're like, oh, I'm a Big Brother. Like, I go visit my friend. And it was just a shame that they cut it because they were really looking forward to it. And I didn't know they were cutting it either. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, and when the episode came up, I was like, oh my God, you girls will be on today. And then they just weren't on. And I was like, oh.
Hey, I was going to ask you, this is just a bit of a weird one. The Big Brother voice, is that consistent throughout the whole time? Or does he ever have like a day off, like a sick day, and then some random person comes on? You're like, what the fuck? Who's this?
Oh, we're not allowed to talk about production, unfortunately.
Okay.
I know. Yeah. I wish I could spill the tea, but
Maybe I'll find out one day if I get a kid in the house.
yeah, no, we any production talk we've signed contracts to unfortunately I wish I could, but yeah, we're not allowed to say that.
No, fair enough.
But
Just
the
finally.
voice we hear is the voice you hear on television.
Okay, cool. Sweet.
Yeah.
Last one, just on the Big Brother piece, and I want to talk about your podcast and some of the other stuff you're working on, but highlights from the house. It sounds like there was some really cool stuff that went down, obviously some challenging stuff too. Was there any particular moments for you that were the most memorable?
Look, one of the moments which was actually extremely emotional was Jess's grandmother had passed away when we were in the house. And we all came together and held hands and did like a prayer for her. And that was a very humbling moment, and it made us feel like we weren't in a game. We dropped all walls and we were there for her. And, you know, that was just a big moment for the whole house to come together. Another one was the letters from home. You know, you miss your family so much. I can't describe it. Like, I was in for just under a month, but it feels like 4 months. Like it one day in the Big Brother house feels literally like 4 days. Psychologically, they say 1 day is 4 days for your mind. And that's because, yeah, you don't have your phone, you don't have technology, you're playing a game, you're not really sleeping. Like, it's just a complete mind fuck. I know, a beautiful one, but it is. So yeah, the letters from home was a big one. It was beautiful. We had the aeroplane come past saying your loved ones are near, and I was dying because my family's from the Northern Beaches, and the house was in Manly, and at that stage I was living on the Northern Beaches, not that far away. So I thought for sure my family were coming in the house. So I was like freaking out. Another big moment was winning a challenge. I actually only won one challenge. I came close many times, but that was a big win. And then I put up Nick and Mel, and I can't remember who else I put up, but I would have put up Danny, but he was sick for that day, so we weren't allowed to put him up. There was so many moments. One moment which was so funny was we all got tethered together, like I think it was 12 housemates at that point. Yeah, 12 of us, just before the intruders. We were all tethered together for 24 hours, like literally tethered. It was just, the 24-hour challenge, the pool challenge, like, wow. There were so many crazy moments. But like for the first 8 days, I was really struggling because I hadn't had any caffeine, and I'm a full-blown coffee addict. Like, I have like 3 or 4 a day.
Wow.
I was really struggling for like the first 8 days.
Is there no coffee at all that you can get, or is that later on? Like,
later on.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And you have to win it. You don't just get it. You have to win it in a food shop.
Wow. Full-blown rations.
Yeah.
Did you, obviously, it sounds like the psychological aspect of the game is such a big factor. You're such a, I mentioned at the top there, your history as an athlete, and you've said a couple of times like that fierce competitive nature is quite organic for you now. Did you find that, I guess, that competitive element and the psychology that would have came from that, being a competitive sprinter, did that serve you in any way going into the house? And then also, has that served you in other areas of your life? Have you seen that competitive, strong, mentally tough element to yourself that you've been able to build as an athlete translate into the house and also outside of the house?
100%. I think, when you grow up being coached and you grow up training and pushing your body, pretty much to its limit often, and then obviously competing under a lot of pressure, with cameras and crowds and, at a world scale, you learn very quickly that your mind is so much stronger than your body. You learn resilience, you learn discipline, you learn routine, and you also learn that you are strong. And I think because I spent so many years training and competing, being then able to do that in the house, it was really easy for me to get in the zone. On race day, I would, visualize and meditate, and I felt really good. I'd warm up my body, and I did the same thing in the challenges in the house. So I would literally warm up. I would visualize. I would like prep. I'd try and visualize myself winning. I would stay really calm. And I always walked into the challenges feeling really good and really calm because of my experience, like you said, being an athlete. It's not foreign, competing is not foreign to me. Competing is like, that's where I come alive. Like I love it. So yeah, definitely that helped. But I also think it's actually a huge disadvantage in the game. Like the moment I walked in, people were like, "Oh, this is Katie, and she was a world champion athlete." And I'm like, "Fuck!" Like, they're like, "Oh." Like they.
You're just like, I wasn't that good. You guys can just relax. Like just.
Yeah. So it's a real disadvantage in games like this because obviously people want you out. They know that physically you're a threat and also mentally because you ask, but don't get me wrong. Like I only won one challenge. So it's like, I don't like sprinting doesn't correlate to the Big Brother challenges. Like some of them are skill based. Some of them are like up and like there was a lot of amazing people in the house. Like Tilly was so good at the challenges. She was a professional rock climber, which no one knows. Mel was like a world champion horse rider when she was younger. But like Jess is obviously an athlete. Marley's an athlete. There's a lot of people, and SJ's very strong. Like she's 65, but she's really good. So there's a lot of people in there that actually physically were really good at the challenges. So to be honest, like it didn't physically do a lot, like a stack for me because like I said, I only won one challenge, but I think I got second. Yeah, I got second in like 3 challenges. So I came close. But
story of my life. Just always like always close to the pinnacle, but not quite.
And I think as well, like definitely, I think being coached is a really amazing skill and being coachable. Like, in my career now and everything I'm doing now. And if I do, a presentation in front of a big group of people, I'm in front of the cameras. I've been in front of the cameras for a long time. I've been in front of a microphone for a long time. I've been media trained when I was younger. So you kind of grow up in the space, doing pretty well under pressure. And then it does correlate to your career because it's not that different. Like you're still pushing yourself like with work. You're still trying to be disciplined. You're still coachable. Even though I don't have a coach now, I have mentors. So I definitely think that, growing up as an athlete, and having, the routines, the rituals, and I suppose like learning how to like mentally prepare for things definitely carries over to career and anything. So I would recommend anyone when they're younger, try and get involved in sport as much as you can.
So would you say that mentality is teachable in terms of for someone that may be tuning in, maybe they're a fan of you, maybe they're a fan of me, unlikely. Let's say they're tuning in and potentially, or at least at this moment in time anyway, they may just feel like their identity could be such that they're quite fragile and that they crumble under pressure, whether that's work or fitness, health, starting a business, starting some sort of project that's important to them. A lot of the people that I connect with are often drawn to, the work that I do and the people that come on the show because they're seeking that confidence that they're lacking. So from your experience, do you think that, I guess, that mentality to become disciplined, to become coachable, to learn these things, can it be taught?
I think it can be taught. I think there's certain personalities that perhaps gravitate more to that kind of lifestyle, like that A-type personality, someone who's ambitious and driven. I think that there is a certain element that is a personality type, but it is very teachable and learnable. So I think it comes down to, one, do you want it and are you passionate? Because a lot of the time people will go, I don't feel motivated to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't have the drive to do this. And they're kind of just heading in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So if you are in the right direction and you are feeling motivated and perhaps you're not there with your discipline or you haven't learned, the resilience yet, it will come. I think it's just like, it just takes time. It just takes practice. Like no one is really born an athlete, right? But you are sort of born with this kind of personality trait to, when you get knocked down, you get back up. People that have grit, people that are a little bit fearless. So I definitely think that there is a lot that's teachable, like for the athlete mind.
Yeah.
But you need to surround yourself with people that are like that. So like get some mentors, surround yourself with like a tribe that are very driven, that have the personality traits that you're wanting to go after, the same values, the same morals, that kind of stuff. And then I also think that, with anything, it's obviously your habits, but it's also how you identify. So it's your identity first. So It's like, you can be doing these habits and it's amazing. You might get up, meditate, journal, all that kind of stuff. And eventually you will start identifying yourself as, an entrepreneur or an athlete, and you have to actually believe it. So it's not just like you wake up and start going to the gym, and think you're going to change in a few weeks. But if you're writing in your journal, I train every day, I meditate every day, and then you start actually living the life that you see for yourself, sooner or later, you will start becoming that person. So I don't know, like, I do think that like grit and resilience can be taught for sure. So I think it's half and half. Like, I think half of it is like, you got to have that like bit of mongrel in you and like be a bit fearless. But then there is a lot of teachable qualities. It does just take time, because it actually has to change your identity, and you have to identify as that. But definitely, like, the athlete mind is much like a corporate mind. It's just someone who's like an A-type personality, who's willing to learn, who's got a growth mindset, who's not afraid to fail. I mean, we're all afraid to fail, but who's just willing to get back up and keep going. So definitely teachable. Definitely teachable, I think. Yeah.
You're touching on some stuff there that Katie Williams is my fucking language. Like, I could just riff on that for hours. That identity piece, really is the great governor of behavior, of mood. Obviously a lot of the science will support that, but it's just been my experience as well. So I think the key there is these things, they are teachable, and there's, even if it's not entirely the only part of the recipe to success, to get what you want, but there's obviously a level of, nature in addition to the nurture, I suppose.
Yeah.
Right. But I think the key is the parts that are learnable will keep you busy enough until the day you die anyway. It's not like you're going to clock that and then you're done. So that's empowering enough just to go all in and explore the parts that are malleable. But then keep in mind, your goal is not to be the next Katie. It's not to be the next Liam or the next whoever. It's whoever you are and the best version of you. You hear that all the time, and it can sound a little bit trite at times, but it's like, no, buy into that. And then really lean into the stuff that is malleable. I think that's where the juice lies. And, I know, you share some amazing stuff in your socials, and your podcast, of course, really looks at different ways to think, move, and feel differently, which is a big part of what we're talking about here, right? Is like the stuff that you can shift, focus on that, and go all in and enjoy the process is kind of what I get from you and what I try and fall back on. So to kind of bring it all back to the work you're doing now, that mentality that we've spoken about, has that also been a big reason for the Better For It platform and everything you're creating now? So if I'm not mistaken, a lot of what you do there is helping people. You have different guests come on, is helping people think better, move better, and feel better. And there's a whole host of different ways to do that. But is a big motivator behind that to help people, I guess, lean into the parts that they can maybe experiment with?
You've nailed it. You've absolutely nailed it. I'm going to have to bring you onto the PR team.
Just send me an email. I've got a lot going on, We'll see if we can make it work.
You want?
We'll talk numbers off air.
Now, you literally nailed it. That's exactly right. Our tagline for the podcast is called Better For It, and our tagline is think, move, and feel better. And the podcast is teaching people to live better and change their lifestyle choices and habits. That's literally what it is. I've done 24 challenges.
Oh, wow.
And all the challenges are like wellness, health, fitness, and lifestyle challenges. So I'll do Vedic meditation with Genoa. That was 40 minutes a day. And then I did Wim Hof breath work with Tommy Kerr. I did a vegan challenge. I've done intuitive eating. I've done a self-criticism challenge, perfectionism challenge. I've done different psych challenges, zoo fitness. I've done a stack of challenges. And the thing is, at the end of it, I report back and tell the audience, was I better for it? But I'm not just measuring, the way I look or the way I feel. I'm looking at my social health, mental health, and physical health. And then I'm critically analyzing my whole health holistically to then say if I was better for it. So I quit coffee on one of them and I wasn't better for it. I quit alcohol on one of them and I wasn't better for it. Quitting alcohol for 2 weeks is not a big deal, but I felt socially like left out. Couldn't have a wine with dinner, wanted to have a margarita when I was out having Mexican with the girls. So I'm looking at it not just from the perspective of obviously physical health, I'm looking at it from all aspects. And the reason why the podcast was born was because when I retired, I retired actually kind of in a sad way. I missed world titles in Holland, the biggest race of my life, which was my retiring race. And I was so fit, but so unhealthy. I was so obsessed with winning. I was so obsessed with getting my body in the best physical shape I could possibly get it in, that I was neglecting my immune system. I was neglecting my mental health. I was just pushing my body to the limits. And I literally ended up in hospital watching the race actually at home at the time, from my couch with a nebulizer on because I had bronchiolitis. And I was training through chest infections, sinus infections. I was just like a rebel. Like I just was pushing my body constantly, and wasn't looking after myself like I should have been. And I thought I was looking after myself because I thought more training, eat cleaner. Like I was just on one. So the podcast was born because I realized that there's more to health than just fitness. And I had to reach absolute rock bottom to realize something's got to give. And it was literally missing the biggest race of my life. I trained 2 years for it. And it was devastating. And I completely had like an identity shift. I had, realization that more people need to understand. So many people were looking up to me and asking me questions about my body and my training. And I thought, people need to know what's going on. People need to know more about health and be more holistic about it because I was struggling with it. And that's kind of where the podcast was born. And then I was also doing workshops as well for young girls. So it all kind of came from that. And that's how the podcast was born.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let me tell you what I fucking love about what you just shared and kind of the premise of the podcast. And you alluded to it there, and I know you've spoken about it on air too. There's some stuff that, and on your socials, of course, too, there's some stuff that you probably really benefit from, some stuff that maybe you don't consistently execute against, but it was fun to experiment with. And that's what I hear from that is you're approaching with curiosity, but at the end of the day, you decide what makes sense for you in your world. And the challenge I see for a lot of people, particularly as they kind of dip their toe into improving themselves, whether that's mentally or physically, is they subscribe to every fucking idea on the internet that they come across. And there's like an abundance of information that we all have access to, which is great. But then the byproduct of that is very often overwhelm. And it's like, well, fuck, I should get up at 5 a.m., but I want to rest until 9 a.m. And like, what do I do? And there's so many conflicting pieces of information. I feel like, and I talk about this all the time, is really encouraging people to get good at building their own filter. So be curious, experiment, trial stuff, particularly if you're if something's not working, then make a change, but you might not get it right straight away. Start experimenting, be curious, be open-minded, and be holistic. And then ultimately you'll build this filter of what works for you physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And I feel like you're leading by example in that space, which is really, really cool. There's a lot of people that put out content. There's a lot of people that have an audience and a community. And I feel like I just want to give you a pat on the back for the work that you're doing there, because that's what I get from you and something I like to advocate too. Be curious, experiment, trial things, and then you fucking decide. This is a real identity piece too, right? There's something empowering about this. You decide who you want to be and how you're going to live into that. And so that's what I get from the podcast and pretty much everything else that you do. Just to wrap things up, Katie, because I want to respect your time. Has there been maybe one or two of those experiences that have maybe surprised you for the better that you continue in your life today?
You just froze there just for a second. Did you say a challenge that surprised me for the better?
Yeah. So of those 24 challenges, has there been one or two that have really stood out to you in terms of, wow, that was really powerful, really useful for me?
Definitely two that probably blew my mind. One was the Wim Hof breathwork challenge. I had a experience with the breathwork that I thought, how the hell did this happen naturally? I literally relived a moment that happened to me when I was 16, of my friend passing away. And I was so back in my subconscious and buried deep, I don't often think about it. And it fully came up in the breath work. Like I was there in that moment at that time, and I saw it from a different set of eyes, and I had a different perspective on it, and it was lighter and it kind of released in a way. So I actually saw his body, and it was a really it was a very dark period for me. And I was only 16. And I haven't relived that. I think about it, but I haven't relived it in a way where it has come out and been released. So that happened to me during the Wim Hof breathwork challenge on my own. But the challenge I was doing was 10 minutes a day or something like that. But I was like 45 minutes into this. I just kept going with the breath work. And obviously, I don't actually know what I was doing. I was just really going with it. And it was obviously like, trauma release breath work, or it had led me to that point. And if you haven't experienced breath work, it's really hard to explain, and people probably think I'm a weirdo, but I definitely experienced that and relived that memory and cleared it, which was really beautiful. I'm sure it's there. It needs I'm sure it needs to come out again. It's definitely still in there. But reliving that was just really impactful. So the Wim Hof challenge was epic. And then the other one, which I was so resistant to do, and I actually ended up loving, was the social media detox. So I got offline. And I am a social media addict. Like I am on my phone a lot. Like I know I'm always on there communicating, I'm always on there chatting with friends, sending audio notes, I'm posting a lot. I love social media. So I really didn't want to do that challenge, but I felt so good. I felt so creative. I felt so much happier being offline, which really surprised me. So it's often the ones that I don't want to do that, that yield the biggest results.
Interesting. Yeah, that says a lot in that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, Katie, well, speaking off air, just to kind of wrap things up about some of the stuff you've got coming up. I don't know what you can and can't share, but I'll give that license to you to maybe leave us with what you've got in the works, and maybe any kind of final ideas that you found, really useful for you over your podcast career, your sprinting career, and of course your time on Big Brother. To start with, what does life look like for you in the next 6 to 12 months? What can you share with us?
I'm really interested in keeping Better For It growing and evolving. So at the moment, I'm working on a program. I want to do a HIIT program and a running program. I'm actually doing my NLP course in October. And I'm also doing my Reiki course in a week, which is super cool. So I'm much like you, very interested in self-development and kind of like that mindset space, but I'm more interested in learning about it deeper.
Yeah.
And at this stage, there's no shows coming up because I have just done one and we're not allowed to. I would like to do another show, but it'd have to be a show that is, a physical show and more to do with fitness or business. And what else is going on? Same thing at the moment with working with brands. I definitely want to do some workshops and retreats. But at the moment, focusing on the podcast, I want to produce a lot more content, and I really want to punch out this program. So we've got like the structure of it all happening now. But back to study and trying to build up Better For It and turn it into more than just a podcast. I want it to be workshops, retreats, a book, like some merch. Like I'm pretty keen to go all in with it.
I love that. I've got some whispers of ideas in the back of my mind around some retreat stuff that I want to explore. So we might be able to link up and make some magic.
We might be collaborating.
Yeah, I love it. Watch this motherfucking space. All right, I'll leave it there, Katie. Thank you so much. I'll put your details in the show notes. People can connect with you if they don't already on social and reach out. I'm sure you'd be happy to respond if they have any queries or questions based on this chat, but you're an absolute legend. It was so good to have the time to put this together and do it. Hopefully people got some value, had a couple of laughs. And until next time.
Liam, you're a champion. Love chatting with you, brother. We could have done this for a few hours. I wish I had more time.
Next time, let's get a bottle of red.
Yeah.
And let's just see where the ideas go. That's where some real juice will come out, I reckon.
Come to Sydney. We'll go out. I'll take you down. We'll chat these retreat ideas. We'll chat about a collaboration. I'm here for it.
I like it. This is good.